I found a millionaire bleeding by my fence, and the first thing she said was, "Please, no police." I let a stranger into my kitchen, while my 6-year-old daughters watched me break every rule I ever taught them. 72 hours later, men with badges took my girls in something they called protective custody. Yeah, that happened. My name is Jack Morrison. I run a small ranch in Montana where October wind cuts through flannel and the wheat fields go gold right when chores pile up. That afternoon, I was fixing the same loose board I've been promising to fix for 3 years, while my twins Lily and Rose chased each other to the fence line, laughing like the sky couldn't help but listen. That's when I saw the SUV in the ditch hood crumpled steam curling like a ghost. A woman was slumped against my fence post, one shoe gone blood along her eyebrow designer jacket, torn like it didn't know how to be dirty. She tried to stand, failed, and looked up at me with green eyes that carried two things at once: panic and pride. "Stay back, girls," I said, hands out like I was approaching a spooked horse. "I'm Jack. You're on my land. Let me help you." "No police," she whispered, sharp and scared. "No hospital. I just need somewhere safe to think." "If it were you, what would you have done?" Everything in me said, "Call 911, lock the door, keep the girls behind your legs." But Rose stepped forward with Mr. Buttons, the bear that has served more tours than most medics. And Lily tilted her head the way she does when she can tell a person's edges are cracking. The woman softened at the sight of them, like she'd found a window in a burning room. I made a call that didn't come from the brain, it came from the ribs. I took her home. My farmhouse is honest. White siding that needs paint every spring. A porch step I still haven't fixed, a stone fireplace that eats wood like a wood chipper, and somehow warms the entire soul at once. I sat her at the kitchen table, cleaned the cut, handed over coffee like it was medicine. My girls set out bread like we were feeding a small hurricane. "I'm Emma," she said finally. "Emma Sterling. That last name lands heavy out here. Sterling means oil money, glass towers, headlines. But in my kitchen, she was a person trying not to flinch when the antiseptic stung. She studied the photos on the mantel. County fair pie eating contest, first day of school, me looking ridiculous in a cowboy hat Lily drew, where I resemble a muffin. She pointed and smiled, careful and tired. "Where's their mother?" she asked later, quiet, like stepping onto a shaky bridge. "She left when the girls were babies," I said, and I felt the house inhale with me. Said ranch life wasn't what she signed up for. I looked at my daughters, sunlight in 2 copies. And then I looked at the stranger who had just asked me not to call for help, and somehow felt more honest than most people I've known for years. We kept it light for the kids. Grilled cheese, extra cheese, cures faster. Rose's theory peer-reviewed. Emma laughed in that way you laugh when your bones are heavy, but your manners remember the script. When the girls ran off to make the horses in their drawings fly, I set the gauze and asked the question that had been chewing the gate. "Are you in trouble?" She stared at her hands like the truth was written in her palms. "I did the right thing," she said. "Steady, like steel is steady. And now very powerful people are furious. I turned evidence over to the feds months ago. I thought that would end it. It didn't. Do you think that's fair?" That night, a storm shouldered in. Montana thunder that makes your roof feel like a drum. Power-flickered kerosene lamps gave the kitchen a soft glow, and the girls begged for a movie. Emma sat between them on the couch, one kid tucked under each arm, Mr. Buttons wedged under her chin, like he'd always belonged there. For 20 minutes, the house was warm in a way I can't explain without sounding like I'm selling candles. For 20 minutes, the windows didn't matter. Then I saw it. The way her eyes kept flicking toward her jacket. A tiny buzz. A second phone. Backup. People in trouble always carry backup. She read a text and went the color of paper. We finished the movie like people who know the next scene is outside the screen. At 3 a.m., my porch light clicked on. She was in the yard, shoes in her hand shoulders, set for a goodbye she didn't plan to make face to face. Going somewhere, I asked. You were supposed to be asleep, she said, and her breath fogged in the cold. Hard to sleep when someone you care about is about to do something dangerous and call it responsible, I told her. They found my car, she said. They'll canvass. I won't have them tearing apart your life to get to me. Trust me to keep you safe, I said. Jack, she shook her head. This isn't about trust. It's math, risk and damage. Your girls, and you, I said, you're in the equation now. Headlights swung up the road. She flinched. I raised a hand. I called him. Called who? Marcus Chen, former Navy SEAL. Head of your security, I said, and watched surprise, anger, relief fight it out in her eyes. Your phone was on the counter when you went upstairs. I saw his name. I took a chance. That wasn't your right, she said, but the words didn't have teeth. Sometimes love and survival share a toolbox, and none of the tools are polite. Marcus stepped out of the truck like he'd been cut from the word ready. Compact, calm eyes that take in everything and give away nothing. Ms. Sterling, he said. Sir. He checked her injuries fast, checked the yard faster. We talked at the kitchen table while the lamps hummed. Emma laid out what she hadn't told me. Fiancé turned thief, trusted employees turned traitors, a rich family with knives who didn't mind getting dirty. She followed the money documented, it handed it to the FBI. Then she started digging for the rot she could still smell, and the rot moved departments. Evidence is in a safety deposit box in Denver, she said. Under my grandmother's maiden name. Hard drives, recordings. Enough to tell the truth, if we can get to it. Here's where you either lean in or pull back. We leaned in. We left at dawn. I drove the old truck through mountains that know how to make a man feel small. Emma watched the horizon the way you watch a door you know will open. We paid cash at a small hotel, slept 2 hours that felt like one, and walked into First National Bank at 9 a.m., like people who had asked the world for one more inch of grace. The vault was quiet in that way that makes you whisper even alone. Emma used the ruby ring around her neck as ID signed a card with a name that wasn't hers and slid the box out with hands that remembered. Everything's here, she exhaled. Then the elevator dinged. Patricia Hoffman walked in with 2 agents and a sad smile that had a blade in it. Patricia, Emma's family lawyer, the person she once called at midnight for advice before her life became a chessboard. Emma, Patricia said softly. I'm sorry it's come to this. The cuffs clicked around Emma's wrists. The sound felt louder than thunder. Wait. Marcus moved his eyes just that, and somehow I knew the choreography of saving a life. 5 minutes earlier, I'd backed my truck into a fire hydrant with all the subtlety of a bull in a china shop. Now the street outside the bank was a geyser alarms hiccuping, people yelling, water punching the daylight. The vault attendant sprinted up the hall. In that confusion, Marcus had those cuffs off like he'd invented the key. Stage left, he whispered. We took a service corridor, hit a stairwell, slipped through a delivery door, and jumped into my truck. Emma hugged the briefcase like it was a living thing, Go Marcus said. We went. The safe house was a cabin tucked in the pines, the kind of place where the world turns down its volume and the truth gets loud. We spread the evidence on a scarred table. Emma's fingers hovered over hard drives like prayers. Marcus set up comms. I called my brother Tom, asked him to pick up the girls from school and keep them overnight. He didn't ask why. Family that shows up first and asks questions second is a blessing you tally late at night. Headlights through branches, tires on gravel. A loudspeaker crackled. Emma Sterling. This is Agent Sarah Chen with the FBI. We have the cabin surrounded. Come out with your hands visible. Marcus went still, jaw tight. Sarah, he said, my sister. You ever feel the floor tilt even though you're standing still? That. We stepped out together, hands upwind, cold enough to make your teeth consider retirement. A woman approached. Same alert stillness as Marcus, same eyes. Ms. Sterling, she asked, are you injured? I'll answer your question if you answer mine, Emma said. Are you here to arrest me or to hear the truth? Sarah held my gaze like she could measure the width of my honesty. Half my field office is compromised, she said quietly. I can cuff you and hand you back to the people who framed you, or I can do my job the way I swore to. I'm here to hear the truth. We chose door number 2, Midnight Denver field office. Sarah assembled a small team. The clean kind, the tired kind, the ones who do the paperwork right, because they have to live with themselves. We laid out recordings and bank trails. Emma played Patricia's voice, admitting she'd been coerced by the same family who wanted Emma erased. The techs traced payments through shell companies until the board looked like a nest of snakes. Then the tech lead froze. Transfers, he said, voice thin, to Deputy Director James Morrison. Morrison, my last name. I said it out loud before I could stop myself. No relation. Sarah didn't blink. He's my boss, she said. He's been overseeing this case from day one. Emma sat back like someone had peeled the floor away again. Marcus rubbed his temples, and my phone rang. Tom. Men came to the ranch. He blurted badges, papers, the whole deal. Said they were taking the girls into protective custody because you're being investigated for harboring a fugitive. I told them to get off my land. They showed me a court order. Jack, I'm sorry. The room rushed away and snapped back like a rubber band. I heard shouting and realized it was me. If it were your kids, what would you have done? What would you have felt? Stick around because what happened next will blow your mind. In 6 hours, Sarah's team did a year's work. They enhanced audio and matched the voice calling himself the partner to Deputy Director Morrison. They followed money through 17 accounts. They woke a judge who still had pillow marks on his face and got warrants written like iron. They found my girls in a so-called safe house outside Colorado Springs, owned by a shell company, parked 3 doors down, a paper maze from Morrison's lake place. At noon, we drove to Morrison's private ranch in a convoy that didn't pretend to be subtle. He stood on the porch wearing the kind of confidence people confuse with innocence. Ms. Sterling, he called, you've caused quite a bit of trouble. Where are the girls? Emma asked. In the barn, he said, with caretakers. They think it's an adventure. I'd like to keep it that way. Let them go, I told him, stepping forward without asking my heart for permission. Now. He smiled like he graded requests for a living. Mr. Morrison, he said, tasting our shared name. Your daughters are safe. This is business, not personal. Have you noticed people always say that right before they do something unforgivable? Sarah stepped into full view. Weapon low, eyes hard. James Morrison, she said. You're under arrest for conspiracy, corruption, kidnapping, and murder. We have warrants, we have recordings, we have the money trail. It's over. Your investigation is unauthorized, he replied. Anything you think you have is fruit from a poisoned tree. You and your rogue team will be suspended by sunset. Emma did the most Emma thing I've seen anyone do. She lifted a small device, a box tech guys love and villains hate, and said everything you've said in the last 5 minutes has been recorded by authorized agents executing a judge's warrant, including the part where you confirmed you're holding children as leverage. His eyes flicked to the barn. Movement. Running feet. 2 voices I would know underwater in a hurricane. Lily and Rose burst from the barn, hair-wild faces streaked with dust and joy. Daddy, they yelled in stereo. We had pancakes and saw real horses, and it was a secret adventure. I went to my knees so fast my joints filed a complaint. I touched their faces, counted fingers, felt ribs under my arms, told the universe it could have anything it wanted. as long as I got to keep this. Behind me, handcuffs found wrists that thought they were above metal. Patricia's name was cleared. Innocent executives walked out of cells with sunlight on their faces and lawyers at their elbows. Headlines said words like systemic and reform, and some folks pretended they'd always known. 6 months later, Emma stood in my kitchen with flour in her hair, arguing gently with Rose about whether sprinkles are a food group, while Lily lined up cookies like troops. Sterling Industries had new leadership, new ethics, new locks. Emma still flew out for board meetings, but every trip got shorter like the ranch had rewired her compass. Marcus visits sometimes. Sarah, too. Tom finally replaced that porch step just to bug me. Mr. Buttons lives on a chair nobody sits in. That's the happy ending, right? Home safety justice. But here's the part that doesn't fit neatly in a bow, the part I want to argue with you about. When you do the right thing in a crooked world, the bill lands on people who didn't sign for it. My daughters were brave this year without being asked if they wanted to be. Emma spoke up and the sky threw lightning. If she'd kept quiet, nothing would have blown up, and 1,000 wrongs would have kept breathing in the dark. If she speaks, she gets what we got. Danger collateral nights where you hold your kids and pretend your ribs aren't shaking. So what's the cost of doing right, and who pays it? Do you think that's fair? If it were you, what would you have done? At my fence when a stranger begged for no cops in my kitchen at 3 a.m. at the bank, when the elevator dinged on that porch, when a man told you business isn't personal. Tell me where you agree with me and where you don't. Tell me if you've been there. You know what I mean. If this story hit you somewhere under the sternum, share it with one person who needs a reminder that ordinary decency can square up to power and not blink. Drop your take in the comments. Defend. Emma, defend me, defend nobody. Just be honest. And if you've lived something like this, even a small version, tell us what you did. I'm reading every word. Subscribe if you want more true stories told the way they felt from inside the skin, and stick around. The next one is already knocking on my door.